All right, welcome back. We are back at it once again with a late night creeper. It is 1:48 a.m. my time. Good evening, afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I want to deal with the nastiness of these mutants once again. I can't emphasize enough to people how serious dog diseases are. And it always seems like people underestimate it or they sort of downplay it or they believe that it's not that serious. They also believe that any type of infection or disease, whatever, that you get from dogs, that you can also get from other animals. Many of the diseases that they talk about coming from dogs, they blame it on other animals, actually. But it's not true. We all know that's not true. The truth is that dogs are so nasty, they're so disgusting, such an abomination, that they themselves develop many of these infections or things that they pass on to us, infections that they pass on to us. They develop it themselves. They are the nasty organisms, the disgusting source of these infections. And that's what people don't like to say. They don't like to say it. They always want to blame it on something else. Anything bad with dogs, got to do with dogs, they always trying to blame it. As we know that. I'm just saying they do the same thing with infections. Oh, the dog got it from somewhere else. It's like if it attacks somebody, oh, it's somebody else's fault. Staple in nuttery. Shout out to I Hate Mutts. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, yeah. Inside jokes, la in the house. Macho Mike. Let's get into it. Now, as some of you may have noticed, I've been sharing a lot of content recently on both channels. Be sure to check out everything that I shared if you haven't already. And one of the first things that I shared that I sort of spammed was a video from Dog Culture Review. And we must deal with this nastiness tonight. There's so much that we haven't covered when it comes to dogs that we need to cover. I said this years ago for the first time. There's still a whole world of things that need to be looked at and discussed, researched, and all of that about dogs that we haven't accomplished yet. So let's hopefully take another step and leave here a little smarter than we were before we came. Now, if you haven't watched this video, let me sum it up for you. It's about a parasite. Actually, two types of parasites that you can contract from dogs. And it appears that only dogs, it seems like dogs produce them. They literally, the way it sounds, the way they explain it, it sounds as if the dog's body itself produces them. Just like the mutt body has parasites, other parasites. They're born with parasites. How do we know they're not born with this? Now let's get into it. This is a very dangerous, deadly parasite. And one thing we need to remember about dogs, they're so nasty, and the things they infect us with is so nasty that it's deadly. It's dangerous. We should not be anywhere near these things. We should make it a point to sterilize the very ground they walk on. I'm dead serious. Now,
This diagram shows an abbreviated form of the life cycle of Echinococcus granulosus. I want you to first focus on the dog. The dog releases an egg, also
boom. The dog released the egg. See what it says, right? Definitive host starts with the dog. The nasty, disease-ridden, disgusting, dangerously disgusting mutant.
Called the ovum, and we'll follow this arrow going to the sheep. And once inside the sheep, this parasite will form these hydatid cysts.
So the dog releases an egg, a parasitic egg. An egg with parasites in it. And the sheep eat the grass or whatever, and they ingest the parasites. And then, let's back it up. It's released from the sheep as something else.
To the sheep. And once inside the sheep, this parasite will form these hydatid cysts.
The parasite forms cysts. What?
And if the dog then eats some of the meat from a sheep that was infected with a parasite.
Meat from a sheep? Meat from a sheep? You mean like if you chop the meat of the sheep up and feed the sheep to the dog? Or are you talking about if the dog simply eats the sheep's excrement? I think it's going to happen. The latter is going to be true most of the time, because that's what they do. See how it's a shame I got to help navigate and translate the code language.
Then the dog will eat these hydatid cysts and perpetuate the infection. Now the reason it's relevant.
And that it perpetuates the infection. So after the dog eats the excrement or whatever from the sheep, which the dog passed along itself. But you see, the dog produces the egg. So it probably doesn't even bother the dog, because it's the producer of it. Huh?
Relevant for us is because we can accidentally eat the egg instead of the sheep. Basically,
we can eat the egg? How? How can these eggs get ingested into the human body?
through the fecal-oral route. Now, it's safe to assume
fecal-oral route. So humans have to ingest the excrement of the dog or the egg. The egg it can be microscopic. Get on your finger. All you do is rub your hand across the dog.
That humans don't go around eating dog feces. So what actually happens is that food or fingers get contaminated with dog feces that have these eggs, and then it gets eaten by a human. So the nasty nutters don't eat nothing that they prepare. Don't touch nothing that they touch. Don't shake hands. Don't do none of that. This is the fecal-oral route, but this is the more practical way that the fecal-oral route is actually carried out. Anyways, these eggs, which you can see here, go into the body, and you can see them go down and eventually enter organs, such as the liver. And it's here that they would form. Enter organs? The liver? Which is perhaps the most important organ in your body? Your liver shut down, it's a wrap. You telling me this stuff gets attached to our liver, huh? Is this some type of joke? No, this is a real thing. Sound like something from what? Outer space, don't it? I told you, these things so disgusting. They got otherworldly filth. And eventually enter organs, such as the liver. And it's here that they would form these hydatid cysts. And they can go to other hydatid cysts. You start to develop cysts on your liver. And they can attach to any organ. And this is a parasite that morphs into a cyst on your liver? It gets worse. Organs. The liver is just the most common location. So with this conceptual framework, they would form these hydatid cysts. And they can go to other organs. The liver is just the most common location. So with this conceptual framework, let's dive into the details of Echinococcus granulosus. Now our story takes place in the house of a kooky old woman. She's not a crazy cat lady, she's a crazy cock lady. Look at all those cocks roaming around her kitchen. Some on the counter, the ground, one's on the table, and there's even one on her shoulder. All these cocks with the grandma represent Echinococcus granulosus. Now she's a strange lady for multiple reasons. As you can now see, she's
Did y'all catch that? Are you following? He's fast talking us. He's fast talking us here. And I don't want nobody to miss nothing.
Old woman. She's not a crazy cat lady. She's a crazy cock lady. Look at all those cocks roaming around her kitchen. Some on the counter, the ground, one's on the table, and there's even one on her shoulder. All these cocks with the grandma represent Echinococcus granulosus.
So the cocks with the grandma represents this infection. Okay, this is a weird analogy he gives, but just bear with him.
Now, she's a strange lady for multiple reasons. As you can now see, she's feeding her sweet grandson a bunch of worms. Not a great meal, but this young man is really quite polite about it. He knows that his grandma struggles, so instead of telling her he doesn't want to eat the worm meal, he just tapes them under the table so she can't find them. Well, these taped worms represent the fact that Echinococcus granulosus is a tapeworm, or a cestode. Here's a microscope.
It's a tapeworm. We all know millions of people contract tapeworms every year from dogs.
Big specimen of the actual tapeworm of Echinococcus granulosus. Now here's one of the lady's chickens outside in the yard laying eggs. As you can see, the lady also has a dog. This one is currently dragging its poopy bum all over the ground. Yeah, dogs are really gross. Anyway.
Look at that. I don't want y'all to miss that. Look at how they're saying that it's transmitted, spread and recycled, perpetuated from the dog simply dragging its anus across the ground. What do they do inside of people's homes? They do this they plant their anus all over the homes. They're saying that eggs get dispensed that way and from the actual excrement. Now pay attention now. They're saying that the birds lay their eggs in the excrement and some nonsense. Pay attention here. I think they're adding in these other animals to sort of take all the blame off the dog and project the dog as not the sole producer of this filth.
Of Echinococcus granulosus. Now here's one of the lady's chickens outside in the yard laying eggs. As you can see, the lady also has a dog. This one is currently dragging its poopy bum all over the ground. Yeah, dogs are really gross. Anyways, the chicken eggs have been laid in the dog's poop, which represents the fact that Echinococcus eggs are found in dog feces. Now look at that grandpa.
It's found in dog feces. Doesn't it sound like this infection is produced inside of dogs? Yes, it does. That's what they're saying.
Jolly and small man and likes to eat chicken eggs when he sits on his beanbag. Look at those cracked eggs. He just eats them raw, shell and all. This eating of eggs represents the fact that Echinococcus granulosus occurs by ingesting eggs from dog feces.
Ingesting eggs from dog feces. Okay? So that graph that he showed you earlier, where the egg goes inside the sheep and comes out as a cyst, humans don't contract this by ingesting the cyst. They ingest the egg. So this is really pointless showing this graph. Again, I think it's just their way to try to spread the blame around to other animals, thus make it look natural, like something that just evolves from nature. You see. Let's continue. Boy, it gets worse.
So again, eggs in dog poop, and then eaten by this old man, represents that humans get Echinococcus.
Eggs in dog poop. Look at this. They're saying that the humans eat eggs that were laid by chickens that lay eggs in traces of dog excrement. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. That dogs are going out to chicken hens, spreading their anus across the ground and chicken around a bunch of chickens. They laying their eggs. Let's stop it. This is spreading to humans from direct contact with dogs and exchanging bodily fluids with dogs. This is their way to hide that philia word. That's the main way it's being transmitted.
Granulosis infections by ingesting eggs from food contaminated with dog feces. Now we can see another dog back here on the patio. In its dog food dish is a little sheep, which apparently thought the dish was a good place to take a nap. This obviously confuses the dog. Look at those question marks above that dog. Is he supposed to eat it? He's not sure. Anyways, this represents how sheep are an intermediate host for the life cycle of Echinococcus granulosus. So they're the ones that eat the eggs and get the hydatid cysts, and then the dogs eat parts of the sheep, and then the life cycle continues. And again, we have the sheep here.
Dogs eat part of the sheep. Okay. All right, buddy. Dogs eat part of the sheep, and then what? The hydatid cyst forms back into an egg? Huh? Yeah, that's what they're saying. So they're basically saying that it comes from the dog and somehow it gets recycled back into the dog by the dog probably eating its own excrement in some other filthy ways that they just don't want to reveal to you.
It can produce the hydatid cyst, and the dog can eat parts of the sheep and release more eggs, which
You know
can
what I'm
then
saying?
be eaten by the
Because how many dogs are eating sheep meat? What are you talking about? Is that popular and I'm just not aware of it? Is there states where dogs, eat a lot of sheep? Okay, and even if that is the case, who cares? It comes from the dog. That's the only thing that matters. Who cares what it turns into when it goes into the sheep and come out the sheep? The dog nasty and it eats it right back up again.
human. Now let's go back to that poo stain created by that dog. The stain kind of takes the shape of the intestines, and one of the eggs the chicken laid here actually hatched. I guess it was a fertilized egg. Good thing they didn't cook it, or eat it raw, I guess, which is what that old man would have done. So
you see that says eggs hatch into larvae within the intestines, meaning when it gets inside of our bodies.
idea should help you remember that eggs hatch into larvae within the intestines. So a human eats the egg, then it hatches into a larvae in the intestines. Once hatched, the larvae will travel to the liver and form hydatid cysts. To help.
Y'all hear that? In other words, dogs will dispense eggs produced by themselves into your body. Those eggs will then crack, and the filth inside of the eggs will travel to your liver and form cysts all over your liver. It gets worse.
Help you remember that cysts occur in the liver, we have intentionally made the beanbag shaped and colored like a liver. Now notice that the big beanbag has these little bulging wounds in it. This is created by the dogs biting the beanbag, destroying the integrity of the outer layer of the beanbag. And these little bulging tears in the beanbag look like those cysts.
Y'all following this? They said this is a beanbag right here. And the dog is biting holes out the beanbag. But he said the beanbag represents your liver. And the holes that the dog bit in the beanbag represents the cysts that the larvae formed on your liver. Let's continue.
Like hydatid cysts. Lastly, notice that the cysts look like rounded eggshells. This is to help you remember that hydatid cysts within the liver demonstrate eggshell calcifications on imaging. Again, this whole part of the image is to help you remember that hydatid cysts form in the liver. Now this is a CT scan showing a hydatid
cysts form in the liver.
Cyst within the liver. These can grow and look like a tumor. That's a huge cyst.
Look at the image he provided.
And on the outside, you can see this eggshell calcification. And seeing that should tip you off that this is a hydatid cyst, not a tumor. Now here's an image of a hydatid cyst from Echinococcus granulosus. Humongous. And you can see here that there would be that outer calcified edge, giving it that eggshell calcification appearance on imaging. With all those cysts...
No. Let's stop it right there. Because I believe he's trying to soften the blow with the images that he selected. Here's an example of what the cysts on your liver look like. Just keep in mind, you ingest something, not like a glass of water, microscopic. You're getting eggs on your fingers, get to your mouth, get in your body, travels to your liver, and your liver develops cysts. Do you really think dogs and humans are made for each other? Best friends, a match made in heaven? Do you really think dogs are compatible with human territory? Here's another liver with cysts. another liver with cysts. It gets worse.
Cysts in the liver, it makes sense that infected patients would get hepatomegaly. They just have this giant cyst growing in the liver, so their liver will get huge. To help you remember hepatomegaly, think of how big this beanbag is compared to this small old man. So giant liver-shaped beanbag for hydatid cysts causing hepatomegaly. Now it's super important to keep these cysts from rupturing. If they rupture, it can be...
What? Keep the cysts from rupturing? The cysts on your liver? People, what type of nonsense is this? This is outrageous. Cysts on your liver that can burst.
Megaly. Now it's super important to keep these cysts from rupturing. If they rupture, it can be catastrophic. Upon rupture, they release a concentrated amount of allergens that can trigger an anaphylactic response. This can be deadly.
If they burst, they can trigger an anaphylaxis response. That's a deadly response of the immune system. And it can kill you. You die from your immune system responding to a cyst bursting on your liver. Let's continue.
To help you remember this, we've shown one of the beanbag cysts rupture, releasing beanbag contents. All of these little particles have reached this poor granddaughter, touching her skin in many places. She is deathly allergic to beanbag filling, apparently, so...
Okay, this is how they decided to explain to you that you die. Got the cyst bursting in a girl's face and her face turning red. That means you die.
Oh, now she's going into anaphylactic shock, as you can tell by her red face and the fact that she's holding her throat.
So when these cysts on your liver bust, you go into anaphylaxis shock and your face will turn red and you'll start tripping. All from touching a dog. That's all we know. Can you imagine a creature so much of an abomination to the universe that you could simply touch it and end up having cysts developing on your liver that kill you when they burst? Let's continue.
As if she's unable to breathe. So again, cyst rupture can cause deadly anaphylaxis. Now let's discuss treatment. To treat patients, you need to surgically remove the hydatid cyst from the liver. However, surgical removal is dangerous because cysts can rupture so easily. For this reason, surgeons will kill the cyst and its contents first. They do this by giving the patient a medication called albendazole. To help you remember albendazole, we've shown this little book being destroyed by the puppy. The title of the book is Harry Porter and Albus. You may remember that Albus was a great wizard mentor to Harry.
Stop. So in order to help you, they have to surgically remove the cysts from your liver. And they have to be careful because the cysts could burst. So they inject the cysts with albendazole first, okay? Let me skip this a little bit. He starts babbling.
The surgeon will inject it with alcohol. And
you hear that? Inject them with alcohol too?
For surgery. And just prior to cutting out the hydatid cyst, the surgeon will inject it with alcohol. And to help you remember the use of alcohol, we have shown this granny's bottle of alcohol getting knocked over by one of her cocks. Perhaps it's her alcohol problem that turned her into a kooky cock lady. Anyways, look at that alcohol drip down to this area. This should help you remember that you need to inject the cyst with alcohol.
And albendazole. So you got to inject the cysts that developed on your liver with albendazole and alcohol. Cysts that developed from larvae that came out of an egg that you ingested came from a dog. Can't make this up, people. You want to look at some more livers? Could you imagine just touching a dog could do this to your liver? I refer to dogs as filthy and nasty only because I haven't found a word strong enough to describe them. There's no word currently strong enough to describe how nasty and disgusting, dangerously disgusting these things are. Look at that. You touch these abominations. They crack you open. This is what your liver look like. One of them bursts, you go into shock and die. What in the world types of creatures are we dealing with here, people? Anybody who thought my channel was some type of joke, I don't think you thinking like that now. It's very important that every owner of a dog takes it to a shelter and requests to have it euthanized. If they don't want to euthanize it, fine. Leave it there. Ain't nothing ain't no amount of rubbing worth this type of let's look at another liver with cysts. Anybody care to count the number of cysts? If you're a doctor, would you look forward to injecting each one of these with albendazole and alcohol? Will a person even survive with their liver exposed for that long? That has to take you may as well just replace the liver. You go around poking it 1,000 times with albendazole and alcohol, it probably ruin the whole liver. Let's give them a new liver, man. And don't get it twisted. They said that these things can develop anywhere on any organ. Like, wow, is it really that? It gets worse and worse. There's no limit. Look, this is what can develop on your brain. They're taking it off a human brain right now, just from touching a dog. I think it's clear. If you ask me, it's clear that dogs are our mortal enemies. Our mortal enemies. We're going to learn our lesson on this earth. And if we're smart enough to migrate to a different planet, we will be smart enough to exterminate the dogs before we occupy it, if there are any dogs there. Now, this is the CDC's website. And they want to give some advice on how to control it. Prevent transmission of the parasite. You got to limit the areas where what? Dogs are allowed. People, and they hauling these things into classrooms by the thousands. Teaching young people, trying to brainwash them to be in a nutter. You control it by limiting the areas where dogs are allowed. In other words, you can get it simply by touching them. You don't got to actually ingest its excrement. Look at this. Prevent dogs from feeding on the carcasses of infected. Get out of here. Look at this. Wash your hands with soap and water after handling dogs and before handling food. There you go. There you go. It's primarily being passed around from these people just being in the home, kissing them, letting the dog lick all over them. Listen, the stuff is in their excrement, so you know it's in their mouth. It's all over their tongue. What are dogs doing with their tongue? What are dogs doing with their tongue? All day, every day. They're licking their owners. Sometimes all over the mouth, all over the face. If it's in the dog's excrement, it's in the dog's saliva. It eats its excrement. Okay? So I don't want to have people just thinking about dog excrement. And ain't it crazy that they actually found dog excrement? Now, this just adds to how toxic dog excrement is in general. So this extremely toxic waste is found in our breathing air and water? Really? Shout out to somebody who left a comment and pointed out that, when it rains, that dog waste gets washed into our water system and the parasites are not killed off by the water plants. I believe that. Can you imagine how this is affecting our health? Dog excrement being that toxic, and you mean tell me it contaminates literally everything? Our air, water, and it's all over everything. That dander goes everywhere. Anything that can linger in the air for hours and it's that toxic, nobody can tell me it's not impacting our health. Oh, it most certainly is. I'm not crazy. Lord, do we need anything else? Isn't this enough? This is enough. Lord. Now, that was the best video I found on it. The easiest to understand. How many more parasites? Lord. And there are a lot of them. A lot of different types of parasites that are in dogs that do a lot of different types of things. Y'all remember that list I shared of the list of diseases, dog diseases? Anybody can look it up. And a lot of them were parasitic infections. Right? I used to talk about how crazy how long the list was. And I still say it. Like, this list is dangerously long. If you're talking about infections, this is ridiculous. Look at this. The parasite we just went over is just this one. We simply looked at the behavior of one parasite, how it's ingested and passed it and perpetuated. Just one parasite. We haven't even dealt with all the other ones yet. That's dangerous. Fungal infections, bacterial infections, viral infections. This is dangerous. External parasites. They broke the parasite infections down into internal and external. This is dangerous. Diseases and disorders by system, skeletal and muscular disorders. Of course, these are mutants we're dealing with. And it makes sense. A bunch of skeletal, muscular disorders of a mutant is going to be infested with a whole bunch of diseases. A library's worth of diseases. Look at this. This is what they keep on this planet. It was immoral to create these things in the first place. Look at what dog lovers, dog culture perpetuates. And they make jokes out of these deformities. And the only reason that many of these parasites are not as prevalent here in the United States is because here in the U.S. got a lot of money and they shooting them up all the time from birth. But yet you still have cases popping up here in the United States every year. Now they say about 1 to 2 million people contract that particular parasite worldwide every year. 1 to 2 million. Cyst on the liver? They said you could develop the cyst on your eyeball. Lord. Cardiovascular and circulatory. Why? Why? Look at this. So when I say that they should be all euthanized, every single dog should be euthanized. Do you understand how moral that would be? That's the highest of morals right there. How righteous, how humane that would be. It's inhumane to maintain the existence of creatures this deformed and dangerously nasty. That's immoral and inhumane towards the creatures and us. Mainly us. But I don't care about dogs anyway. Endocrine disease. This is ridiculous, people. Skin ear infections. These are worthless, good for nothing, garbage organisms that have nothing but a negative impact on this planet, our civilization, everything. And the effect, the negative impact they have, you can see it, you can feel it, has effect on your health and your body. The benefits y'all get from these worthless trash mutants is not tangible. You can't see it. The only thing you're talking about is your emotions. You feel better. Oh, I feel less stressed out. You need to find something else to help calm you down. Ridiculous. Shout out to everybody. Dog culture in the house. I'm basically elaborating on a video he made that I shared earlier. A lot of important stuff, man. And that video told me there's a lot more work ahead that needs to be dealt with. It's got to be dealt with. These people got no passion in keeping us safe. They don't care about our health. Don't care about us at all. So we got to take up the mantra, the torches, and do the hard work ourselves, you know. Do the research, do the digging. A lot of work, man. They supposed to be doing this for a living. And it's supposed to be an honorable job. You're a doctor, you take these oaths, you probably join a few groups. And yet they're just low down, dirty, dishonest, and deceptive. Sad, sad shame. Shout out to Lala in the building. Stephen Thompson in the house. Mike in the house. Buster Mutt in the building. I hate mutts. Not forget anybody. War on Dogs in the house. Nice chopping it up with y'all. Be sure to share this video. I think it's important. People need to know this. Give them yet another reason to not shake hands and to stay away from dogs and their enabling owners. And I hope to see you all on the next live stream as we continue with this crusade.